Jimmy Butler has spread his cancer all over the Heat, and he has ruined their season. I do believe they'll never recover from this disastrous guy that is, purged on them. I mean, he's ruined. Like, they don't matter anymore at all. Like, I watched them play last night. They suck.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final live right here on this Tuesday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie, I am Ben. One more hour to go to get you set for this Tuesday. We will play one of our favorite games around the NFL. To start off this third and final hour, it is buy or sell, which we have done at every stage of the NFL postseason in the teams that exited playoff consideration over a weekend. What is next for those franchises? The biggest questions to address throughout the off season. We'll talk a little bit of the NBA, some hardwood handicaps, and Jon Rothstein will join the show later in this third and final hour. But we would not be doing the people the service that needs to be done, Donnie. We didn't talk about the Dallas Cowboys one final time before we go. A big third hour to end out the show today on this Tuesday.
Absolutely. Got a lot of topics to hit here, getting you ready for Super Bowl Sunday, even though it's a week and a half out at this point. A lot of important information needs to be dissected on our march to the Super Bowl, but also includes some questions about those Dallas Cowboys and talking about, not feeling good about their future. The public not feeling good about Dallas Cowboys' future here, Ben. No doubt about it.
Not at all. Will the Dallas Cowboys ever play in a Super Bowl again? What used to be the standard of success, how the organization judged itself, but now mockingly called a drought, having not played in the NFC Championship game in 29 NFL seasons with 13 playoff appearances. Is Brian Schottenheimer the guy to turn around that narrative at the Star? Will it happen right away in 2025? Will the Cowboys even have the opportunity to change all that we have seen in Dallas if they can even reach the postseason? We'll find out right now all together and Fade the Public. Will the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs next season? At SportsGrid on Twitter. Oftentimes, DRS will look at a Fade the Public poll and say, oh, that's pretty close. Or, hey, there's a couple of options that have a similar amount of votes. Not this one. One of the largest landslides I have ever seen in FTP history. Yes or no? Will the Cowboys make the postseason next year in 2025? 92% of the public saying no. DRS, are you going to fade them?
I am going to fade the public. How about that? I am part of the now 9% now, so just dropped to 91% that says yes, they will. Understand what we talk about in the NFC East. Usually teams that win the division can't win the division the next year, and the NFL is set up where if you do win the division and if you have a good record here, you're going to get a worse draft pick, which you get in the draft, and also you're going to get a tougher schedule, which the NFC East schedule is very tough due to the divisions they have to play outside their own next year. But also understand this. I don't think you're getting a downgraded head coach. Sometimes say, I wonder what's going to happen. No. Mike McCarthy is the same as what Brian Schottenheimer would be, but here's the difference. Last year, you had Dak Prescott go down and be injured. We know Dak can't win the big game, but you know where Dak's really good? In the regular season. CeeDee Lamb, hampered by injury the entire season, tried to fight his way through it, ended up getting season-ending surgery later in the season. He'll be healthy next year. And you know where they made their biggest miss overall by far? They decided to go into the season last year without a running back. They won't make that mistake again. So now, if let's just say I have a competent running game, a healthy Dak Prescott, CD at wide receiver, and a couple defensive players that can really make plays, and if they're healthy and motivated like Michael Parsons, will make plays. I'm not telling you the Dallas Cowboys are going to make a run to the Super Bowl because they won't. Their history has told you that. But there's no way that 91% of the public can say no one making the playoffs when 7 teams in your conference make the playoffs. And if the Dallas Cowboys are somewhat healthy next year, they will be a top 7 talented team. So I'm going to say yes. I'll be with the 9%. So me being the most unbiased man on the SportsGrid network, you would have thought I'd automatically hate right now the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not. They're too talented to not have a chance to make the playoffs. 91% saying no chance at the playoffs? Stop it. Stop.
So, while I agree that normally I would say yes, I actually voted no. I'm not sure what Brian Schottenheimer is going to be like. I really don't know what this roster is going to look like in critical positions this year. You have belief in the Jones family making the right offseason maneuvers? I'm not so sure because time and again they have proven that has not been the case. Will Dallas spend in free agency to desperately address the running back room, offensive line positions, building out depth in a defense that mightily struggled a season ago? I don't necessarily know. There's another huge paycheck that needs to be met this offseason in Micah Parsons. It took Jerry until the very end of August into early September to do what should have been done now in March once the league year begins. Pay Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So I'm not sure the correct decisions are going to be made. But here is where I start to agree with you, DRS, that more of the public should actually look at Dallas making the postseason. We can make our jokes, and believe me, we will. And I will say what I consistently have said for the last 3 to 4 years. I wouldn't bet my money, Donnie's money, my worst enemy's money on the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC Championship before the season gets started because they're not going to play in said NFC Championship game. But make the postseason with all the talent that Dallas has is a very different scenario. You see the drought that should not be in quotes, certainly not in air quotes, from Stephen Jones. Last Super Bowl championship, 1995. Now in the 29 years since, the Cowboys have failed to reach a conference championship game, let alone a Super Bowl berth. But they have made the postseason 13 times. They have been ousted by the divisional round a lot in that span, all 13 years. They have gone one and done 8 of those 13 playoff appearances. But still 13 playoff appearances. Not quite half. I do understand that, but nearly 50% of the time. Even look at Mike McCarthy's 5-year tenure, DRS, at the Star. First year, 6-10 football team. All right, had to figure some things out. Next 3 years, 12 wins, all 3 seasons, 2 divisional championships. This past year, 7-10. Not a great season. But the talent is there if Brian Schottenheimer is a successful head coach and if Jerry Jones makes the necessary maneuvers this offseason to at least be a 9 or 10 win football team and be in playoff consideration and in those in the hunt graphics come late November, December, and of course into January. I'm just not so sure the right decisions have already been made this offseason and will continue to be the case throughout these coming months.
Yeah, and again, talking about the NFL being cyclical, we can't guarantee that the Dallas Cowboys will be healthy this year, or Brian Schottenheimer could be a minor upgrade over McCarthy. But I think you rang it out most importantly here. He's been in the building. The offense really isn't going to change. So when Mike McCarthy comes to town and everything does change, that's where they have a rough patch here. The offseason should be fine. It's the same playbook with a couple more wrinkles, which means they're going to start in OTAs exactly where they left off last year, the year before that, and the year before that. Understanding the language and the play calls and also the expectations that will be set on offense with players that have been around the block, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. They just need to add on to some pieces and components, which I think they will. But understand this, because I get the hate where the Dallas Cowboys right now aren't a great franchise, but the talent is there to succeed. And we do this a lot. Like, oh, they're not. Like, look around the rest of the NFC and say where the Dallas Cowboys can't possibly pick up 7 or 8 wins, which means in the final 2 to 3 weeks of the season, you're fighting for a playoff spot. It's hard to not be a playoff team in the NFL. You have to be a brutal team to basically not be a top 7 in each conference here. And I do think the Dallas Cowboys, if they are healthy next year, should battle for at least 9 wins, which gives you a great shot at making the playoffs.
And just because Dallas has been a disaster this season and is 7-10, and we joke about their head coaching hire and Jerry Jones running this organization that he claims to love into the ground, the Cowboys aren't entering 2025 with a win total of 6.5 or a plus 220 price to make the playoffs. The win total is probably going to approach double digits, if not already be there, and they're probably going to be favored to see the NFC postseason. Will they cash those tickets? That remains the question. We'll talk some big picture questions next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Jimmy Butler has spread his cancer all over the Heat, and he has ruined their season. I do believe they'll never recover from this disastrous guy that is, purged on him. I mean, he's ruined. Like, they don't matter anymore at all. Like, I watched them play last night. They suck.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
You know, they have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
It is time to play our favorite game around the National Football League, especially at this juncture of a season when teams have been eliminated from playoff consideration. Eliminated from playoff consideration now, a loss in a championship game and not being able to reach a Super Bowl. Big picture questions and conversations to be had for the Buffalo Bills first, and then the Washington Commanders. Donnie, we know the story for Buffalo. 5 consecutive AFC East divisional championships, but just 2 AFC championship game berths to show for it, losing to the Chiefs in both of those inside Arrowhead. They have been ousted from the postseason on this 5-year run of winning a division 4 times by Kansas City. The first time in NFL history a team has eliminated the same opponent 4 times in a 5-year window ever in the history of the National Football League. You see the playoff record for Josh Allen. We just showed it. 7-2 against everybody else, winless. 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes and KC. They were unable to exercise that playoff demon. Will they ever? That's the question. Buy or sell, Josh Allen will never beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
Sell, 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 sell. You say, what are you kidding me? He can't beat him in the playoffs. These two are on a collision course for the next 5 to 6 years, at least meet up 3 or more times in the playoffs. Sooner or later, the bounces in the playoffs will go his direction, because every time they line up in the playoffs, I never go, man, he's just really bad in those big spots. He's played great football, but Mahomes has just been better, and the Kansas City Chiefs overall have just been better. It's that meme that you see, right? It's like, Vince Carter, I got one more left in me, like asking any certain question that you have. Like, there's at least one more in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen to play against each other. And I'm going to say there's multiple shots. So if you tell me, let's just say 2, let's just say only 2 more times they'll meet up in the playoffs, he is going to beat Patrick Mahomes, I believe, in one of those games, because you can't run this hot as a quarterback with one team against a talented opponent where they keep bringing their A game. Sooner than later, that catch by Dalton Kincaid is going to happen. That extra field goal is going to happen. Travis Kelce is going to drop a big pass here and not allow you to get beat at that instant. So I'm going to sell this. Sooner than later, Josh Allen's going to win one of those. I believe it.
Patrick Mahomes is 29 years old. This is year number 8 in his NFL career, 7th as a starter in KC. Josh Allen is 28 years old, 7th year in the NFL, has started basically the entire time in Western New York. Completely agree with DRS. Sell. Now, am I resolute in a wholly confident in the idea that if you give me Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes next year, I'm going to bet Josh Allen in Buffalo to get the job done? Not necessarily, but it's a very similar conversation, Donnie, in thought to the one we had last week about the Baltimore Ravens being ousted by the Bills and talking about Lamar Jackson's lack of playoff success. Would he ever win a Super Bowl? The reason I sold that idea or bought the idea, I guess, that he will win a Super Bowl is because of the opportunity. The chance is going to be there. And if you made me bet this, even money on both sides, I'll bet that eventually Josh Allen does get the better of Patrick Mahomes and KC because of opportunity. Now, you could look at that from the glass half full perspective and say, hey, they've met 4 times in 5 years. They are going to probably meet 5 times in the next 8 years to end out their career. The chance will be there. But you could also look glass half full and say they've met 4 times in 5 years, and Mahomes and Kansas City have won all 4 meetings. I understand it. But again, based on opportunity, I'll sell the notion that Josh Allen will never beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. There almost seems to be this voodoo magic that you cannot explain, that they cannot slay their playoff dragon that is Kansas City. Buffalo outgained KC on Sunday night in Arrowhead. The Bills won the turnover margin as they did not turn the football over and forced Patrick Mahomes to cough up the football on the turf and recovered, and still were unable to get the better of the Chiefs. I get all of that, but just based on opportunity, I will sell the notion that Josh Allen is never going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason.
And you also can say, like, what happens if you never beat him in the regular season even? Like, this would be a crazy topic. Like, well, he hasn't beat him in 7 or 8 chances. Why would he beat him again? But he has beaten him multiple times, including this season. And yes, some things just don't go the right. It's not always on the quarterback, but they're going to take the victories and say they're going to get the credit. And also with the losses, the same exact thing. But as I pointed out to, at least in the playoffs here, the Josh Allen losses to the Kansas City Chiefs weren't because of, wow, man, Patrick Mahomes is so much better than Josh Allen at this point. It's really unfair. Like, no, his defense has stepped up. His coaching staff has stepped up. His kickers have stepped up in the moment more for the other team than him himself. But I do think, and again, I point to this season as the Buffalo Bills' expectations were, of course, to make the playoffs and make a deep run. But starting the season, say, okay, retooling a little bit at wide receiver, lost some defensive players due to cap casualties. I think you're going to have actually the best version of the Buffalo Bills next year. And keep in mind, maybe the biggest acquisition that's already happened is Joe Brady turning down other head coaching opportunities to come back to the Buffalo Bills for another season. So good things are on the horizon, which I think we're included in. Yes, if they meet in the playoffs, I won't be like, well, never beat him before, won't beat him again. You got to take a fresh outlook because it's not Josh Allen's fault. And maybe if they have a slightly better team than they had this year, maybe that will be enough to carry them through with a playoff victory.
Again, if you put them on the money line like they were on Sunday night in Arrowhead, would I bet this to happen? Maybe not. I'll still have that belief in Kansas City as the Chiefs deserve the benefit of the doubt. But the entirety of the idea that Josh Allen will never beat Patrick Mahomes, of course, is what DRS and I are selling. Now, we heard from Josh Allen at the end of the divisional round saying nobody believed in the Bills this year, yada, yada, yada. I'm not so sure that was the case, but people did have questions about Buffalo's future with all the changes they made roster-wise this offseason. Getting rid of Stephon Diggs, getting rid of Gabe Davis, changes defensively. It's clear Buffalo needs to bolster up the offense on the outside. Keon Coleman, probably not the answer. Dalton Kincaid, the disastrous drop, still, I think, a promising future. But you need to add some pieces for Josh Allen once again to be fully all in. Wonder what those odds are going to look like in the AFC, how tightly compact we have all of these teams. KC, Buffalo, Baltimore, the tier of three. What will the offseason outlook be for the Bengals once again? So much young talent at the quarterback position under the age of 30 in the AFC. We're going to be doing this for many years to come. Now let's talk NFC next.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. You know, people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Now, this is a buy or sell question that I am incredibly excited to have a conversation with Donnie Rightside about. When you look at how this season came to a close for the Commanders, sure, it was a disappointing end in a conference championship game. But when you put the season into context, it is a resounding success. And there can be no other word said except that. resounding success. A rookie quarterback, the second overall selection under a first-year head coach in Washington in Dan Quinn. A team that had a preseason win total of 6.5 that nearly doubled that up, leading a franchise to a conference championship game for the first time in more than 3 decades. And since it's right in front of your face, let's talk about Jayden Daniels' season stats. Because he was historic and record-setting, his name already engraved on the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award. But now for the buy or sell, DRS. Buy or sell. Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC at this moment.
I'm selling that right now. And it's not to say he's not in the conversation, right? We're not saying, well, he's, bottom 10. No, he's right up there with the best of them here. I can't call him the best just yet. Fantastic rookie season, absolutely. But I need an evolution here. I need a game plan of first year, second year, third year, fourth year to really get that vibe, because there are some good quarterbacks, whether you like them or not, in the NFC. Dak Prescott, he's going to put up a lot of statistics when he's healthy. Jalen Hurts, all he does is win football games. The Detroit Lions in the rebirth of Jared Goff, he was fantastic this year for the Detroit Lions. Jordan Love, who, again, is in that similar scope as Jayden Daniels. And Jayden Daniels have a better season than him, yes, but he's still a competent, quality quarterback. Then you get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. You even go out west and you take a look at Matthew Stafford and the Rams, and even Kyler Murray as a shout-out there for the Arizona Cardinals. Up there in the conversation, absolutely. But is he best in the NFC? No, he's not right now. And that's not a knock where he can't be that through next year, because if he puts up these similar statistics and has a winning franchise football game again next year, which says we might be able to win the NFC East, we might be able to win more playoff games, then you put him in that conversation as, you know what, he just might be the best. Great football player, trajectory to the moon, no doubt about it. But I have to sell the notion that right now he is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Right now, I am selling the notion as well. I think it's easy to say, even after a historic rookie season, where does this guy now rank in the pantheon of the great quarterbacks in the NFC? In the AFC, we just talked about all the illustrious and proven talent at the quarterback position. So not necessarily the same conversation in the NFC. But we still have to wait to see it year over year. Sophomore slumps exist, even if it seems like a cliche, for a reason. Insert CJ Stroud this year. Is it all on Stroud? No, of course not. But we'll see Jayden Daniels back it up to really have the conversation. He is the best quarterback in the NFC. I'll sell it. But is he outside the top 5? I'm not so sure. In fact, Donnie, when I saw this in the rundown yesterday, I went through each division, each team, starting quarterback at the moment for every NFL franchise. And when you really start a direct head-to-head matchup, it becomes difficult to take guys in favor of Jayden Daniels. Now, there are some that are more proven. Matthew Stafford, a name that you mentioned. Statistically, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, no doubt about it. There are guys like Jalen Hurts in the same division that have reached the mountaintop of the NFC. And, of course, the sport playing in a Super Bowl for a second time in 3 years, leading their teams to more success than even Jayden Daniels has at this stage of his career. But when you really think head-to-head, is Jayden Daniels losing out on a lot of these matchups at this stage of a career at this moment? No, not necessarily. The best, again, I'll sell it. Outside the top 5, I would sell that very notion as well.
Yeah, no, he's really good. He's certainly in the top 5 conversation. He's in the top 3 conversation. If you get hot with one football player in a game-to-game situation where we saw him outduel Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff, he's right there with them. We just need a longer leash right now to say, you know what, let's get these data points backed up, because if he goes the next 2 years with the same way he played his rookie year, you're going to have that conversation as, you know what, he just might be the best overall quarterback in the NFL, as it could turn out, with the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens. That's the type of hype that we're getting off year number 1. But we still have to stick out in the biggest moments here. He had a lot of really good games this year in big moments, which again included Tampa and Detroit. But you look at that roster up and down the charts, maybe it gets better, maybe he doesn't need as much help, maybe he doesn't need to have the entire focal point of the offense been on his shoulders, but he's there right now. He's really good, and he's in the conversation.
No doubt about it. In the conversation, and it seems that his offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, will be back for year number 2. Do it again, the same conversation next year might be a buy. We'll talk about the NBA next.
Hey.
this guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time. And I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
12 games in the association last night, only a quadruple header slate on this Tuesday in the NBA. But plenty to break down for you here with the two premier NBA handicappers on the SportsGrid Network, DRS and myself. All right, Donnie, the Lakers on the road once again, second leg of a road back-to-back, 5-point win last night in Charlotte over the Hornets. 4-point spread in favor of the Lakers tonight in Philadelphia against your 76ers. Total 216. Of course, when you are looking at the second leg of a back-to-back for the Lakers in any game in Philadelphia, you need to check the availability report in the prop market so far. We have props for LeBron James and Anthony Davis for LA. We only have props for Tyrese Maxey for Philadelphia. Of course, no Joel Embiid and no Paul George. Thus, a 4-point spread in favor of LA on the road.
Yeah, some CLV already. If you had the Philadelphia 76ers this morning, as much as getting 5.5, now down to 4 currently live here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Other outlets, Ben, now showing even 3.5, which doesn't really let you in on the Philadelphia 76ers and what we're expecting from them. It's what are we expecting from the Los Angeles Lakers? Playing last night in Charlotte. AD had a 40-20 game last night. Now, is this one of those games where you press it down with your vets because you should be able to beat the Philadelphia 76ers as opposed to the Lakers going to Boston and getting 9 points? Why waste a back-to-back here and play those athletes? But also, you're understanding that you played your starters last night in Charlotte, knowing that you had a back-to-back in Philadelphia. That's the game you chose. So the chances of LeBron James and or Anthony Davis being out, at least one of those being out, does increase. And those lines are telling you that as well. So I took the earlier 5.5 this morning. So if it's still sitting at the 4 number on the FanDuel Sportsbook, I still think that makes sense. The lineup for the Sixers estimated tonight, it's not even a good one. Maxey, Oubre, Gordon, Council IV, and Yabusele. But we're just worried about jet lag from a veteran team, and will they be all there once this game tips off? That's why that line's dropping.
Yeah, completely agree, DRS. And when you look at the 76ers season, they have to start winning games at a certain point. They are 10 games below 500. They are 17-27. Yes, they have won 2 in a row, but if the season ended today, they would be a game and a half behind the Bulls for what would be the 10th spot, that 4th and final, even in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament. There is too much talent on the roster, even if that roster hardly ever plays together, for the Sixers not to make the play-in tournament at bare minimum. I would agree. I think this line is going to continue to work toward Philadelphia. One of the difficult things we do in breaking down NBA games at 10:30, even at 7 p.m. Eastern time for when that game is supposed to tip, because so much could change. The Lakers might say right now they're going to play both AD and LeBron James, but they wake up as they travel to Philadelphia overnight, get ready for shoot-around, and they're like, I'm all right. Like, it's Guerschon Yabusele on the other side, although LeBron might want some revenge from that poster throughout the Olympics. I agree with you. I think the right side would be looking at Philadelphia right now, but the 76ers can't just be catching points all that much more often. The Lakers have won 4 straight. They're 8 games above 500. They've won 6 of their last 7. They have covered in 4 of those 6 wins, 4-1-1 against the spread in those 6 victories. The Lakers not playing bad basketball right now, in 42-23 out of Anthony Davis last night against the Charlotte Hornets. Again, only 4 games in the NBA tonight. Let's go to another. The Bucks on the second leg of a road back-to-back, laying 5.5 in the Rose City against the Trailblazers. 229 and a hook is the total tonight. Yesterday, Milwaukee in Salt Lake, beating up on the worst team in the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz, winning 125-110, covering in that game, winning by 15 on the road.
Yeah, you're taking a look also at another instance, Ben, where you're trying to line up and say, all right, where's the advantages here for the home team? Well, the simple advantages is Portland's not a great team, but they're home, they're rested and ready. The Milwaukee Bucks once again played last night, way more talented roster, no doubt, and even in the anticipated starting lineup tonight, Lillard, Jackson, Prince, Antetokounmpo, and Lopez. You take a look at the Blazers, Simons, Kamara, Denny Avdija, Grant, and also Ayton. So for Ayton, DeAndre Ayton. But if you are looking at, again, this line, open up 6.5, now dipping to 5.5. And I do agree with that movement because back-to-backs are always tricky, as you pointed out. We don't know all that information until later in the afternoon, but the lines moving accordingly are saying, well, yes, you have a built-in advantage, and maybe if one of those starters is not playing tonight, extra advantage for the home team that's rested and ready for the game. I'll take the points once again with the Portland Trailblazers in this game, banking on a little bit of jet lag and maybe a starter out that Portland will be full gas on their offense.
The Blazers not the best team this year. 12 games below 500, 17-29, third worst mark in the Western Conference. But they have been very competitive. They've been an underdog now in 42 of 46 total games this year. 24-17-1 against the spread. We would expect to see Damian Lillard tonight, as you see the headline, his second return back to his former long-standing home in Portland. Milwaukee playing better basketball since the start of the NBA Cup, winning said NBA Cup crown, now 26-18. The Bucks victorious in 8 of their last 10. Houston, huge win last night inside TD Garden. Almost a prove-it game to say, hey, we're a legitimate Western Conference and NBA championship contender. Now, the Rockets on the road again, still laying 7 in a change of venue against the Hawks. But that line working up even more in favor of the Rockets. Total at 227. DRS, what do you like?
Yeah, taking a look at the anticipated lineups there, you still have Young, Daniels, these some names. Vit Krejci? How about that name here? And Reese Shea and Okonkwo. My goodness, man. That's a tough pronunciation lineup all the way through for the Hawks. But then you have Van Vliet, Green, Thompson, Brooks, and Şengün. You're looking at the usual suspects there for the Rockets. But I got to tell you, it's not as if it's like the MO of the night is just take the home teams here because they're rested and ready and not as good as the other team. But if there was one of those games where you say, boy, we're high-fiving and relaxing and sort of smelling the roses, that would be the Houston Rockets, who, again, are back-to-back on the road after an unbelievable performance in Boston.
Unbelievable.
I just would ride with the Atlanta Hawks here, now getting 7 points live. Something has to give. Maybe Trae Young's out or somebody extra would be missing, but this is one of those perfect scenarios where not often do you see, like, hey, the public's like, yes, the Rockets have arrived. Hold on, they just lost to the Hawks. This is what happens in sports, why it's so tough to keep those winning streaks going. Give me the 7 points with the Hawks.
Yeah, I think it's hard to fault DRS. It's not like the Rockets are just playing the second leg of a back-to-back, which we have mentioned numerous times, and it's on the road and it's difficult. The Rockets won in the final seconds last night against the reigning NBA champs, trying to prove they were of that echelon on a last-second floater from Amen Thompson. Talk about riding the high and a slight come-down in the ATL. And one of my favorite trends the last few years, if the Hawks were an underdog or expected to lose a basketball game, they often lost and they did not cover. Changing this year, Atlanta 15-12 against the number as a dog this season. Houston, one of the best teams in the NBA right now, and certainly so in covering numbers. I would agree with taking the points. 4 games in the NBA tonight. Our last one, Golden State at home in San Francisco. 12-point favorite DRS against the Utah Jazz. Again, we mentioned the Jazz, second worst team in the NBA, worst record in the Western Conference, 10-34. Also playing the second leg of a back-to-back, but a change of venue from Salt Lake to Northern California. The Dubs also need to start winning games, much like the Sixers would be on the outside of the Western Conference play-in tournament if the season closed today.
Yeah, look at the opposite of the first 3 games we went over, where the road team now coming in here saying we had a home game last night, but now we're on the road today, and we have the Golden State Warriors at home, but they're heavily favored at -12, which should seem like a layup. But understand this. After the Jazz completed that game last night, they only have 3 home wins, but they have 10 wins on the season, which means they're a better road team than home team. Warriors in a win. Too many points. Give me the Jazz.
Yeah, Utah as an underdog. 43 times out of 44 games. But not bad covering, 23-20 against the spread. DRS, enjoy the money line, my friend. Anything you want me to tell Jon Rothstein on the other side of the break?
Well, give me we need a Temple 10-minute outlook here on how they can actually win the division, or excuse me, the conference, and also make the NCAA tournament, which if it's expanded, they'll make, by the way.
All right, I'll bring that up, but we're anti-expansion. Talk to you tomorrow. More on the early line next.
Jimmy Butler has spread his cancer all over the Heat, and he has ruined their season. I do believe they'll never recover from this disastrous guy that is, purged on them. I mean, he's ruined. Like, they don't matter anymore at all. Like, I watched them play last night. They suck.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This might be only January, but I think Monday night in college basketball served as a cautionary tale. If you wait until March, if you believe the madness does not begin until that month, you are doing yourself a disservice, because college basketball is great all season long. And you want some more enthusiasm? Who better than Jon Rothstein joining us here on this Tuesday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid on behalf of the FanDuel Sportsbook, and of course doing it better than anybody for CBS Sports. Jon, as always, we appreciate the time. Late night, if you watch the overtime thriller in Tucson, but we bring that excitement into another robust Tuesday night slate.
And Ben, the biggest thing I thought of as Arizona and Iowa State wrapped last night, what I would give right now for a late night Mountain West or West Coast conference game. There is no sport like college basketball that always delivers, but you know as well as I do, this is only January.
It is only January, but less than 7 weeks away now from Selection Sunday. So those conference tilts add on even more impact. And John, always keep that belief in your confidence, as Caleb Love has shown time and again in college hoops. From nearly 70 feet away, with 2 seconds remaining in regulation, and as it expired, a heave, a miracle that was answered between Arizona and number 3 Iowa State to send the game to overtime. And in that extra session on their home floor, the Wildcats prevail in a big one, 86-75, covering as a 2.5-point home favorite. John, a wild Monday night and a wild Wildcats victory, but what will your lasting takeaway be from Tucson on a Monday?
It was a vintage Caleb Love game, a game that he started 1 of 11 from 3, made obviously the three-quarter court shot to send the game into overtime, and then went 2 for 2 from distance in overtime. But also, even in defeat, and there are no moral victories in college basketball, the way that Iowa State continues to play without Milan Momcilovic, who DJ Otzelberger told me Saturday is still probably 2 to 4 weeks away from returning. This is a team, again, that has the requisites to get to San Antonio and reach a Final Four. But, Ben, you know there's always collateral damage when you lose games that you feel like you have won. Iowa State now trails Houston by 2 games in the loss column in the Big 12. And since Houston has joined the conference, it is 23-3 in the regular season in the Big 12 under Kelvin Sampson.
They are perfect right now. There was a thought that perhaps Houston would falter with the big boys in the Big 12 after dominating the American. As we learned last year, certainly not the case. But as we focus on Iowa State, John, number 3 still in the nation. At a point this year, number 2 in the country, the highest ever ranking in program history in Ames. It is already a record-setting season. 17-3 for the Cyclones. Only 1 Final Four appearance in school history. Only 1 other Elite 8 appearance way back in 2000. Is this the team this year under TJ Otzelberger that can get Iowa State to the promised land at a Final Four trip?
Iowa State is definitely capable of getting to a Final Four. There's no doubt about that. But when I say repeatedly every game matters, every game truly matters, because geographics are going to play a big part in the NCAA tournament. Look at the region that Iowa State was in a year ago. Iowa State lost a war against Illinois in the Sweet 16 last year, but had it beat the Illini, it would have had to play UConn in Boston for the right to go to the Final Four. You look at the geographic makeups of this year's potential brackets. Auburn is trending towards being the number 1 seed in the South. That means first and second round games in Lexington, and then Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games in Atlanta. I have a hard time believing that a team is going to be able to go to Atlanta and beat the Tigers, who are a short drive away from Atlanta, in a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 game. Let's go to the East region. Duke continues to rip through the ACC like a chainsaw through butter. I know NC State was very competitive last night at Cameron Indoor Stadium, but there is nothing stopping Duke right now from being the 1 seed in the East region. That means first and second round games in Raleigh, and then the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in Newark. Those 2 teams, Auburn and Duke, are pushing out from the rest right now.
Yep, they certainly are, John. And when you look at the national championship odds, who do you see at the very top? Duke and Auburn, co-favorites at a plus 430 number. Less than 7 weeks away from Selection Sunday. Which team on this list, in your opinion, Jon Rothstein, looks the most like a national championship contender?
I would say, other than Duke and Auburn, I would put Alabama in the 3 spot. I know that Alabama obviously has taken a couple of losses, but still on a neutral court, when you look at the totality of the weapons that Nate Oates has in his arsenal, this is a significantly deeper team than the one a year ago, got to the Final Four for the first time in program history. But make no mistake about it, Those three programs, Duke, Auburn, and Alabama on a neutral court, have unequivocally the highest ceilings out of any three teams in college basketball. And with that said, it is only late January. But if any of those three teams, Duke, Auburn, or Alabama, finish their respective seasons short of San Antonio, it will be a colossal, colossal disappointment. Duke went to the Elite Eight last year under John Shire, came up short. Auburn has not been back to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament since it went to the Final Four in 2019 and again is trending towards being the one seed in the South. And Alabama, who went to a Final Four last year and returned an All-American in Mark Sears, has a deeper roster than it did a year ago. I said before the season started this was the most anticipated season in the history of Alabama basketball. I'm not wavering from that statement. It's Final Four or bust in Tuscaloosa, in Auburn, and of course in Durham.
Of course, when you look at the SEC, John, each and every night there is going to be a top 10, top 15 type tilt. That is the case tonight in Knoxville between Tennessee and Kentucky. In the final 30 seconds of this segment, what's a key matchup to keep an eye on?
Well, Kentucky's offense against Tennessee's defense. Kentucky entering this game was averaging just under 78 points per game on the road in SEC play. Tennessee at home is holding opponents to less than 60 points per outing. The Vols, other than Houston, to me, are the most physical team in college basketball. Tennessee in Knoxville has been like Dan Severn in the octagon.
Jon Rothstein, always the best. More on the early line next.
Jimmy Butler has spread his cancer all over the Heat, and he has ruined their season. I do believe they'll never recover from this disastrous guy that is, purged on them. I mean, he's ruined. Like, they don't matter anymore at all. Like, I watched them play last night. They suck.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You know the story by now. At this stage of conference action around the country in college basketball, each and every night is filled with marquee matchups. Another top 15 tilt within the SEC as we go quickly back to Knoxville in the matchup between the Volunteers, now ranked 8th in the country, and number 12, Kentucky. Tennessee over the weekend in a huge top 10 matchup against Auburn on the Plains came up just shy. Low-scoring affair, 53-51. Tennessee did cover as a 6.5-point road underdog. But the Vols, after a 14-0 start, have now dropped 3 of their last 7, 4-3 within the SEC. They got upset by Vanderbilt last weekend. This weekend, Vandy upset Kentucky on their home floor in Nashville. Vanderbilt, one of 7 programs around the country with both its men's basketball and women's basketball team ranked inside the AP top 25. Kentucky hoping to bounce back, as John shared last night, that being Jon Rothstein. Lamont Butler, the San Diego State transfer for the Cats, out for tonight's game. This line overnight, 8.5 in favor of Tennessee. As you can see, they are now double digits, 147.5. That total critical anytime you are playing Rick Barnes and company because of that physicality on the defensive side of the floor. If Kentucky keeps this game more competitive, is the pace going to be up? Might we flirt with an over? If it's all Tennessee tonight, as the odds might expect in Knoxville, maybe this game does stay under. But elsewhere around the country, awesome games across the board. Michigan State remains the only undefeated team within the Big Ten. A 12.5-point favorite tonight in East Lansing against Minnesota. The Spartans should win. Should comfortably win, perhaps. But the Golden Gophers started 0-6 in Big Ten play and now have won 3 in a row. Outright as an underdog in all 3. All 3 at the time, quad 1 victories, as the undoing of Iowa basketball continues before our very eyes. That's probably not going to be a quad 1 victory very, very soon. But Ben Johnson, yeah, that's the name of the head coach for the Golden Gophers, if you didn't know as well, has really done great things with Minnesota in the last week and a half. Should be competitive tonight inside the Breslin Center. Marquette in the top spot within the Big East. 6.5-point road favorite inside Hinkle against Butler. 8-1 Marquette. 8-1 St. John's. Big road trip tonight for Rick Pitino and the Red Storm to D.C., where they will take on Ed Cooley and Georgetown. 3.5-point spread in favor of the Johnnies over the weekend. It was Cooley back in Providence. The native son returneth. Was not a great game at the AMP. Providence, a big, big victory. That is their Super Bowl. How do the Hoyas respond against St. John's? How does Kansas respond after a disaster in both regulation and overtime against Houston on Saturday evening? 14.5-point home favorite once again in the fog against UCF. Texas A&M, 8.5-point favorite against Oklahoma. OU off to a great start this year. Was one of 4 remaining undefeated teams at the D1 level. They have really kind of tailed off since they have started SEC play. And Duke is the best team in the ACC by far. Of course, the only undefeated team in an ACC that, as a whole this year, from a conference perspective, is not living up to ACC standards. It's been a story the last few years in the Atlantic Coast Conference. But there are 2 teams behind the Blue Devils right now with only 1 loss in conference play. Clemson is 9-1. Louisville, first year under Pat Kelsey, 8-1. The Cards now ranked in the top 25 and an 8.5-point favorite against Wake Forest tonight. Now, the Demon Deacs were a double-digit dog over the weekend against Duke, and played that game much tighter than expected. A really strong second half out of Wake Forest to stay within that game. They're 7-2 in conference. Big game in ACC seeding, ACC outlook tonight, of course, at the Yum Center. And I wouldn't be so sure that Wake doesn't keep this game a little bit tighter than expected from the odds. Really great games up and down the board tonight in college basketball, as you see there. And let's go back to the title odds very quickly. We've got co-favorites, plus 430, Auburn and Duke. You heard from Jon Rothstein. If either of these 2 teams, John Shire's Blue Devils, Bruce Pearl's Tigers, do not reach a Final Four, it would be considered a disappointment. And he is spot on. But a lot of talent behind those teams, of course, and the SEC continues to be a powerhouse. 10 teams in the top 25, 7 in the top 15, featuring a top 15 tilt tonight between Tennessee and Kentucky. The early line returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern on a Wednesday.